Hi, I'm here to talk to you about something you may intellectually know, but believe me, I've experienced it. And that's working with and knowing how to work with psychological trauma. Psychological trauma is counterintuitive. And I say, and I don't care what technique you know or what training you've had. If you haven't had specific training in trauma, don't work with trauma. Unfortunately, most of your clients are going to come in with trauma, especially during the pandemic. I'm not talking about pandemic trauma. The pandemic is causing a connection to traumas that really relate deeply in their past that they had never previously even thought of. When the World Trade Center came down, I had clients I had seen for many years, and I knew every trauma they had, and suddenly they had new traumas. You need to know how to work with trauma. And I designed a special course because I was in the trauma field before there was a field of trauma. 25 years ago, nobody knew how to treat trauma. And I realized that there were some people all over the world that were having some success. So I studied with them. I was one of the first people to work with Francine Shapiro in EMDR. I worked with John Parakis in the body therapies, Rolfing with the muscular systems, and I've worked in civil wars, I've worked in prisons. I've had a lot of experience with trauma. I've worked with the police department, I've worked with the fire department. Trauma, trauma, trauma. In this special program, you'll get the kind of information about trauma that they don't teach at university, if the university's really taught it. You need information that you can apply, and that comes from knowing the research, and I have the experience, and I really want to share that with you. So this program is 3 days online with lots of exercises and lots of information. Then there are 9 different segments that are recorded that you will have online, and you have exams. Each one of them will have an exam, just to see that you really comprehended what we have. We're not meaning to give you exams to cause trauma, but I want to know you learned what you needed to know so that you can feel competent. And each one of those 9 segments is about a very specific area in trauma that you really need to know about. And then there will be 3 days presential where you work with trauma, and I see you work, and I can help integrate and shape everything you've learned. This is a composite of the 25 or almost 30 years I've been working with trauma in all sorts of societies, in all sorts of situations. And we now know that if you, the traumatization in a pandemic is quite obvious. The depression and traumatization, quite obvious. Adolescents are becoming more and more disillusioned and suicidal, quite obvious. But there's the field of inherited trauma that goes back 4 or 5 generations. There's pre- and perinatal trauma. There's central nervous system responses to trauma that may block you for your entire life unless you reprogram the central nervous system. I know all of this. I've worked with it. I've applied it to my patients, or I should say clients, and I really want to share this with you. So if you're interested, click below and join me in this fantastic program. It's not offered anywhere else, in dealing with psychological trauma that you can integrate into whatever kind of work you're doing, because once you know what trauma is like, you can then adjust the modality that you use to the trauma situation.